Welcome to the Healing Manifest podcast, your one true place where you can learn how to transform your life. Each week, we're going to have a guest that we bring on here that's going to teach you different ways that you can better your life. And today we have our guest here, and I'm very grateful to have him on here. There's so much things even I've learned through him, and I had to write a very good intro for him here. So today our guest is a well-known voice of conscious and holistic eating in Toronto. Using his knowledge of healthy eating, neuroscience, and spiritual awareness combined with his sense of humor, he has scaled a business around teaching entrepreneurs how to grow. Currently, he has a business mindset essential video and sales funnel builder template for those looking to scale their product-driven business. Please welcome our guest today, Beau Pinto.
Ayo, what's up, guys?
I told you, it never stops. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic.
Like I said, honestly, it's been, wow, I think we've met, I want to say 3 years ago.
Yeah, around there.
Definitely
pandemic times.
Pandemic times right there. And I remember it was around the time that you were just starting, like, being like a social media manager, and you're doing a lot of content creation there. So
I've been doing it now for probably about like 10, 15 years almost, but it's becoming more content driven for sure throughout this time, especially since TikTok. And I would say, I'm more of a content creator rather than just like a marketer with kind of what I was before.
So definitely, I mean, like I see there, that journey of beginning 10 years ago to now. For those who don't know you, like, just walk us through that journey of where you are now from where you started.
I think I always just was like, interested in, my parents were always kind of struggling with money. It felt like, they weren't, they were doing well, but I think like as a kid when they're always telling you like, oh, we don't have any money, I think we just believe them, right? So I just had this idea in my head, like, okay, I need to learn how to make money. And I see my parents working like crazy, and I just thought to myself, like, man, like they work to get what? Like, I mean, mind you, they had a home. So like, no, thinking back, like it was pretty decent. But I had this mindset of like, I want to be able to make money, and what if there was a way I could do it like without working so much? And so I dove into like the 4-hour work week, and I started looking at stuff like that. But then my aunt introduced me to this website. It was something so stupid, man. It was like an app that basically when you downloaded it helped you shop. But if you were the person who gave away the app, when people were shopping, they would get you would get like advertising pay per click advertising revenue. And it was kind of cool, and my aunt introduced it to me, and I got so fascinated by that I basically went out and I like gave it to like 40 of my friends, and the next month I got a check for $50, and I was like, dope. Like I gave away these free apps and got a check for $50. That's awesome, And that isn't even really what did it for me. What did it for me was when I went to I was just chilling the next month, and I got another check the next month for $40, but I hadn't given away any more apps. So I messaged the company and I was like, hey, I didn't give away any apps. I don't know what this check is for. They're like, oh, it's for the people who are still using the app. And I was like,
oh, okay.
Oh my God. I was like, how do I get this to 1 million people? Because if I'm making $1 per person right now, if I could make $1 million a month, you know what I mean? Spill some water on the floor. I apologize.
No worries.
If I can make $1 million a month, like doing nothing, just chilling, right? Then that would be amazing. So that's kind of where my mind was at. And then I started to contact a lot of people who were famous on YouTube and who had followers. And that's always been my go-to, is just like talk to people who are doing it. Right, I don't need to like necessarily, because I went to school for business and all that stuff, and like I just got annoyed because I was like, are you guys doing it though? Like show me the proof of you actually making this happen. So it was kind of the thing where I would listen to people who had already done it, and then it got to the point where I started having success, and then people were like, hey, like, how are you doing that? And I knew exactly how I did it because I had a formula to do it. So I started doing it for other people, and that became my business for like a decade of just like helping people grow their social media. And it got to the point where we had like hundreds of people that like had just gotten over like 10,000 followers because of us. And, we were building real followers and teaching people not just the process of getting that follower number to go up, but the process of actually turning somebody into a real fan, turning somebody into somebody who is internally motivated to love you, right? And And that was fun. We did that for like a decade. And now I think when the pandemic happened, I closed my whole business down. And I started doing like content creation just for fun. Like it was like I just wanted to do it because we're just having a good time, you know. And then I saw a couple people make TikToks and they're like, "Oh, I got 3 million views. I got 2 million." I'm like, you? I'm like, you don't do, like, you haven't been spending a decade doing it. So I'm like, if you can do it, I'm going to try, you know? So sure enough, I gave it a couple different shots, tried a couple things, and then I made one video. It was like the 5 different types of girls you meet in Toronto or something like that. Or the 5 different types of guys you meet in Toronto too, or whatever, right? And I did that, and it just went viral. And I was like, oh, okay, so there's like lists. And I started like kind of understanding the framework. And I got obsessed with things. So I get obsessed with it, and then I just kept doing it and doing it and doing it. And my one friend said to me, he said, "Beau, like, you're the only person I know that has to try to not post rather than post. Most people have to try to post. I have to try to not post. I can't stop myself." So like this constant obsessive need to constantly create and put stuff out there, it just developed into this thing where I started generating traffic and doing pretty well with it. And now I'm moving to the stage of like building the business out on there. So that's where I'm at now. Yeah.
Oh, what I like with your journey is it sounds like things really just was very organic, where you didn't have this goal necessarily of being this social media influencer. It was just like, I want to do this. I'm going to do this because I enjoy doing it. It's not difficult for you to be like, oh man, I got to figure out what to do here. It's something you generally enjoy. So I imagine you probably have backlogs of content that you have I've not posted it yet.
Oh yeah. And I have more ideas written down than you can even imagine. Like I've at any point, if I wanted to make a video, I just have like a bank of ideas. I can go like, oh, because everything I have an idea of, I write it down right away. I could be in the middle of sleeping, something, whatever. I write it down in my little bank of ideas. And then whenever I need to make a video, when I'm ready to make a video, I don't have to think of an idea. I just have like all those things there, right?
What's interesting with you saying that is, for the music producers who I've like worked a lot with, that is exactly what a lot of us have actually gone through ourselves. Is we can literally have a dream that we made a certain beat, and because we dreamed it, we're like, okay, I have to go over now. I have to literally make this. And I think it really shows for people who are looking to get into content creation, or honestly, I think it's like a template to anything that you do, where you really just have to enjoy doing it. And if you really enjoy what you do, you really have this passion, this obsessive like passion for it. You create value over everything that you've figured that you've learned in that time period. So
yeah, it's weird because it's like everything's coming together, you know? And I didn't understand why I was learning certain things as I grew up. But like, you know, in high school, like going to school for performance and theater, right? Learning how to talk, learning how to be on stage, learning how to, you know, vocally project, and then going into like classes on electronic music production. So learning how to record, learning how to use a mixing board, learning how to, you know, all that. And then doing YouTube for a while afterwards, and like learning how to cut and edit, and like going to the library at Fort York. And, you know, using the green screen and just like being like, okay, what is this? You know, like, and just chopping those things up, and then and even with my own videos, chopping them up. So getting to the point now where it's like I'm noticing I'm trying to show people what I do, and they're like, wow, that sounds complicated. I'm like, it's actually so easy, but I'm realizing, oh wait, maybe it's not, because this is like a decade's worth of like things.
For you, it's easy because how much time you spend.
Exactly, yeah.
And I think that speaks a lot with what it takes for growing as well. Is a lot of people, in your case, where you see someone who knows something so well, it's like, how do you? And you're like, I just know it's not that hard. For someone who, in the same way, works out like every single day, you're going to look at them and be like, you're jacked. And they're going to be like, I didn't see me grow.
Well, the other thing too, right, is like, and this is what I tell people, it's like, they're like, oh, I got to do my social media. I'm like, do you have to like think about like tying your shoe in the morning? You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to think about it. Why? Because you are unconsciously competent at it. You are good at it without even being aware, right? And how did you get to that point? When you first started tying your shoe, did you know how to tie your shoe without even thinking about it? No. You didn't even know you didn't know it when you first saw it. You were like, whoa, what is this? Right? And then it got to the point where you knew that you didn't know it. And then it got to the point where you knew how to do it, but you still had to think about it, right? And then it got to the point where you're just doing it and you're not even thinking about it. And then that's how you create a habit. It's over repetition over time. And so, and then multiplied by emotion. So if you do this thing regularly, it'll get to the point where you're not even realizing you're posting. You're just doing it because it's happening,
And even from what you're saying there, there's actually a level of value that maybe you never realized. So you might be shocked with this question I'm about to ask, because with your experience in content creating and the marketing aspect of it as well, I do know people who they really teach their clients of don't post this, don't post that, you can't do that. They work to filtering them in a way. Now, for yourself being on that other side of the coin, now doing the content creating, have you found that there's pieces of yourself where you're like, okay, I gotta filter this, I gotta kind of filter that out?
That's a tough call. I think there's always a line when it comes to like privacy. I would never post a video showing like a unit number of an apartment, you know what I mean? Or like, anything like that. But with the clients that I had in the past, I always told them, I said, I'm not going to tell you what to post, but I'm going to give you a framework on what works. And you take whatever you want and throw it into the framework. Right? So there is a framework of what works on social media, right? And to some degree, right? And some people will tell you that there is no formula, but that's part of the formula, that it's always changing, right? So, there is a formula to it to some degree, and you do need to kind of like understand psychology enough to understand people. I mean, that's not just social media. I mean, I was doing door-to-door sales. I was selling newspapers, dude. And every single door-to-door phone call, newspaper, you had to have a hook. And it's the same thing with social media. You got to be like, yo, this is why I'm talking to you, right? This is why this is important. I need your attention, right? And so like these little things matter, but when it comes to posting on TikTok or social media in general, I recommend that if you're going to do something new, it's going to sound weird, but like don't add any of your friends and family, go on there and just try being yourself in private and see what that looks like and see who gravitates towards you, right? Because what'll happen is you'll be less afraid to say what you want to say, right? And I've been doing this for so long, so it's different from me because I mean, I can speak on this in my perspective, but I was just speaking on it from most people's perspective. From my perspective, I've been doing this for so long that everything I've ever said, I've heard and seen completely opposite and circular opinions of everything I've ever said. So no matter what I say, every time there's someone who has an opposite opinion and then like a circularly opposite opinion in a spectrum. So there's nothing I can say where everyone will agree with me, right? And eventually you're like, it's frustrating. You're like, every time but then eventually it's liberating, right? And you're like, oh, wait, I can say anything and it won't matter.
Yeah.
Like what matters is, and I always tell this to my clients and whatever, and what matters to me is what's in your own heart. You know what I mean? Do you believe what you're about to do is right? Right? So for example, like I might post something on like homelessness, right? And somebody might say, well, you're exploiting XYZ, right? Well, they don't know that I actually paid that person a fair wage for their time to talk to them. I also bought them resources. I also set them up a GoFundMe page that we can set them up and get them money because we've been doing research with the people in there. So like, I don't care what those people are saying because we can help these people with what we're doing, right? I know in my heart it's the right thing. I don't care, right? I don't talk a lot about politics or anything like that anymore because it's too polarizing and like it's just not for me. I have my own opinions, but if there's something I'm really passionate about that affects me on a day-to-day basis, I'm going to talk about that for sure. And I don't care. I will say whatever. I will swear. I will post whatever. I'm not going to I think to some degree you got to be, again, conscious of your own privacy, right? But most of the time I don't give a like, you know what I mean? I'm going to say what I'm going to say, and that's gotten me in a lot of trouble, but the more trouble it's gotten to me into, the less I've cared over time, And
it seems like even with what you're saying there, it's kind of like you learn the formula of the things that work, and then you just put your personality, and from you just doing that, putting your own personality, you just kind of figured what you wanted to shave off yourself. And it seems like that worked a lot better than someone telling you, because I've myself experienced where, let's say you post, like you mentioned, for example, like a 5 things kind of post. Mm-hmm. They'll say, okay, you posted this. You can't post anything outside of this now. You have to kind of be in this niche, do this kind of content. Where it seems just more something where it's, okay, these are the formulas, these are things that work. This.
That's the challenge, because to some degree they're right. Mm-hmm. You do need to niche yourself. But if you get good at niching yourself, you can niche yourself across multiple like channels, right? And so then your personality doesn't have to be one channel. It can be like the group of channels that you own, right? And then you own those niche channels, and they all develop in their own in their own fashion, right? So you like there again, the niching is important. And as somebody who hates to niche because I'm so ADHD, like I struggle with that a lot. But I still think when it comes to TikTok, good videos are good videos. If it hits, it hits. If it's a good video, it's gonna work. If it's not, it's just not. And that's disappointing for some people to hear, because they'll put their heart into something and then it doesn't go anywhere, right? But the thing is, you can't think about that. Anytime you get upset about your content not being good, the solution is always to make more content. If you're judging your content, that's fine, but only judge your content when you're making the next video. Until you don't say it. Once you posted that, be proud of yourself. Be so proud of yourself. And then judge it when you're making the next one, because the next one you go, how can I make that one better? But don't judge it until you get to that next point, because if you do, you probably won't even make the next one. And then you'll never grow, right? So I always say, make more content always. It's always the solution. Always.
There's a lot of great information you're handing here. And I do want to say now, with everything that you've gone through with your own journey, even because with this question, I feel like how long you've been in it, there's so much ways of answering this. So let me try focus it down to within the last 5 years.
Okay.
How much would you say has surprised you, and like, how was it you're able to deal with like those shocks, whether it be like positive things that came out or even like negative things that came and turned around on you?
Honestly, like the two biggest things for me were like the windows of opportunity that popped up within certain social media frameworks. So like the first one for me was Twitter, but the first noticeable one for me was Instagram. Because when Instagram first came out, we were able to like follow and unfollow like 1,000 people a day. And we were able to target those people based on their locations and the words that they were using. So we weren't just like we were putting ourselves in front of 30,000 new people every month. And certain people were following us and stay following us. And then we would stay following those people until we got to like 7,500 or whatever. And then we would then do a sweep and then come back and do it again. And we kept doing that, dude. And like the first 3 months, it was wild, because I had people notice me a couple times from Twitter, but it was usually when I was with my other famous Twitter friends. When I started walking on the street after 3 months of doing that, people were like, Beau Pinto. And I was like, dude, the weird thing about me is like, I'm not like, the reason why I started my marketing company was I was like, I'm not even like that, like talented per se. You know what I mean? Like I'm not saying anything like brilliant. My videos are mostly dumb. Like, you know, it's just me being me. And I need that for me. But imagine what other people could do with this, you know? Because like, yeah, like it didn't take much. But I think that really blew my mind when I would walk down the street and like, I go to a restaurant, the waiter there would recognize me, and then like my mom would be like, that was cool. And we go into the car, and like as we're in the car, this big huge dude like walks up to the window. We're like, what the hell? And he goes like, Instagram, and like poses and snaps a pic. And my mom was like, what the hell is that? I was like, oh, I think I know that guy. Like, and but it became wild. And so that, it kind of died down a bit because I started helping other people afterwards and kind of, you know, going a bit more into the background. But I think what the second thing where it really like, where I really noticed it was a big shock was TikTok. When TikTok came out, I realized that they were trying to steal the content creators. They wanted the content creators to come over to their platform because we are the lifeblood of those channels, right? To some degree. And so we keep people entertained. And so they tried to steal us by giving us a platform that generated like tons and tons of views for anyone who's willing to make a good video. And so, because there's way more people consuming than there is producing,
100%.
right? So there's always going to be opportunity if you make a good video, right? And so when I made a couple good videos, I think the craziest one was when I had the one that ended up on like Narcity Canada, it like ended up on all these different channels, like, and it was like right after the pandemic, and I was walking down the street and I was basically saying like, yo, like I used to be like, you know, anti-lockdown, but I'm like, now I'm pro-lockdown because I wish everyone would go back inside, you know? But as I'm saying, I wish everyone would go back inside, this guy walks right past me. He's like, and I'm filming this on a video. He walks right past me and goes, and you fucking sucked it. He's like, 'cause you're a fucking whore. And like, and I looked at it, I was like, I'm like, I wish everyone would go back inside. And it was just
so perfect.
It was the most perfect Toronto moment. And from that video, like, I would just be walking down the street and people would just chuckle at me. And I'm like, oh, like, what's up? They're like, I literally just saw you on TikTok. Like, that's so funny. I'm like, oh my God, that like, it was crazy. So, like, and then I would go there and be sitting at the restaurant there. And then the waitress was like, I thought I recognized you from somewhere. Like, I saw you on
Wow.
So I was like, yo, like that to me was probably the one of the two biggest moments in social media where there was like a glitch in the framework. Where like even like in the beginning of TikTok, there was a lot less creators, right? So there's a glitch in the framework where you could kind of manipulate it. And there's still that in TikTok if you know how to make the TikTok videos right. So I tell people like, get on it, you know what I mean? Like, and then just take all the videos that you make on TikTok and put them everywhere else. If it's good for TikTok, it will be great for everywhere else. If it's good for strangers, it'll be good for your friends, right? So make it for TikTok and then just take that one video and repurpose it on all of your other channels. And then you make one video and now you're omnipresent everywhere.
And it really seems like a lot of what you experienced and the things that shocked was like the way that impact of virality can occur and you posting, as you said, like you posting for TikTok, things go, and then as long as it blows, you never know from there how much it blows up. So when you ended up on Narcity, it's like it seems like there was a whole wave, and with a way of how that went viral as well. I remember you earlier mentioning that you yourself, you felt like you wanted to stray away a bit from the political side of things. Did that end up having an impact on you being like, okay, part of this attention made you say, all right, this is something I don't want to really dive into too tough?
You know what it was, man? It just like, it's not even that. I don't mind negative attention. I don't mind saying things that are like politically whatever. It just, I think, you know what it is? It could be a lot of reasons, but I'll just say this. Like, I had one of my mentors one time, who's like my mentor in my superfood business. He said to me, he goes, Beau, you know, you've worked really hard to build your following. You know, some of the stuff you're talking about on there, do you think it would be worth it to lose your account? And I was like, no. And he's like, because if you lose it, you can't talk to anyone, you know? And he goes, sometimes you need to have people like behind enemy lines, you know what I mean, to reach the people, you know? So like, be careful what you say. And so I got really good, and I started getting really good at like discussing my political beliefs without ever talking about anything political. Like I would make like videos of conversations between myself and like having an argument that seems illogical. Yeah. But I'm basically making a statement on like the way that people are arguing about one of like say a topic that's pretty like big right now or whatever, right?
And you know what? Like I want to actually comment on those as well, because it's interesting, because when I speak with you, you're like, I'm just making these goofy videos. It's like me talking to myself. But you know what? Like, the thing that I really liked with your platform and how you do these is like, for you, you're making goofy video, but I see it and I'm like, I'm still learning something. I'm still getting something. So like,
well, nowadays it's different. Nowadays I've been putting out more like trying to educate, inspire.
But it's still even in your humor.
Yeah.
Your little humor sections, it's with comedy. There's
I push, I put stuff in there. I'll slip a little something in there once. Yeah.
So like some of the things that I even like picked on is and you mentioned as well with your superfood, but like that you're working with there. There's a lot of things, even myself, I felt like I was very health conscious, right? But when I watch your stuff, there's things I'm like, oh, I actually did not learn. I did not know about that. So
it's wild, man. It does blow my mind because I do think a lot of people don't know a lot of stuff about health. And so like when I didn't know anything about health until I started working with that health food company, you know, like, and I didn't even want to work with a health food company. I just like I thought the guy that I was working with was cool. And I was like, I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm doing this. I was like, all right, I'll do that if that's what's cool, you know? But that's when I started to learn about it. And when I did, I realized I'm like, damn, like I had this one friend I was talking to recently. I'm like, yo, do you know that like, if you just start your day with like some lemon water, like, and like even like a pinch of like Celtic or like Himalayan salt, like your whole life will change. Yeah. Your whole life. I'm like, cause I'm like, I can see like there's so many people where their issues are just like the autotoxicity from like, you know, not having the proper bowel movements or whatever it may be. And it's like, dude, like it's as simple as just like a glass of lemon water. And I always like to like think about things like that, or like what are the easy, stupidly easy things that anybody can do that are just will create massive change. And that's like one of them.
And it's like one of the biggest conversations with like eating better, having more holistic approach. It's so expensive, but like you just said, having a lemon water.
Well, even
water
with people,
and a lemon.
Even with people with the Brita, right? Like, you know, it's like, look, you got a Brita, okay? I get it. We all did it, right? Brita doesn't do anything. No. It just gets rid of the chlorine taste. It says it right on the box. It doesn't do anything. They've got multiple lawsuits. They're useless. Any type of thing that it might be filtering out, if you live in the city, if you live in wherever, like most likely the filtration systems that we have will filter it out. It's not doing anything. You can go and get a Santivia jug for like $60. It's like a couple bucks cheaper, or sorry, more expensive, and it's what like it's gonna get rid of the it's gonna actually get rid of the chlorine. They have bigger ones, bigger units for maybe like $250 that will get rid of the chlorine, the fluoride, everything like that will mineralize the water. Like you know, there's so many things that people don't know about. I can't even get started. I won't even dive into it because you know I'll start going off. But there's so many things that people could be doing with their water that they're just not. And you know, one shift from a Brita to a Santivia, if that's the only shift you make, it will be a massive difference.
Massive difference. And another thing I found, and I'm with the superfood company, I think you're referring to Purium, I think it was called. That's right. I remember when I was looking on it, that was the biggest one that had me realizing. Because one thing I didn't really know about is like different things that are alkaline, like how alkaline can help, and like these different even they have like these superfoods. I can't remember what it was called right now. It started with an A. I'm literally gonna have to look it up here in a second while you're going there. But these are little things that I learned from your.
Ashwagandha?
I think it was ashwagandha. Like I learned where I was like, oh, these are natural ways that it's just, why is this not talked about enough? Like these are things people will look to, like say steroids, for example, all these different drugs to get the same benefit these natural things can bring you. So I honestly, something I really appreciate for you. So one thing I want to know is what dived you into learning all these things about like health and superfoods and that approach?
I think just from working with Purium was a big thing, and then also anyone who's ever had the medical system fail them, right, will tell you that how their journey like away from it, you know, and a lot of the reasons why they were in the medical system in the first place was because of the medical system, right? So you know, getting away from that, you know. Seeing family members going through things that like no doctor could tell them what it is, and people that I cared about, I would obsess and start to research and be like, well, what can we do? Like, what can we do? Like, let's not give up. And so like I would just research, and you know, and it just became a sort of a fascination for me over time. And you know, and like even now, like I think when people start to talk about like cancer and stuff like that, like. I ask a lot of probing questions when I hear that, because I'm curious. I'm like, I want to know, like, how does the human body work? Why are these things happening? You know, so, yeah.
And like what I noticed is a lot of times when I see you have posts that have that holistic approach, there's like a spiritual aspect that gets brought in with it as well. And you have your spiritual knowledge seems very broad and very great. And how, I don't know if you noticed it, but did you ever notice that there was that connection that you had with those two things?
My spirituality and what again? Sorry.
Like your approach to holistic eating.
Oh, yeah. So if you've ever read the Celestine Prophecy.
Celestine Prophecy?
Have you read that book?
I've not read it before, no.
The fact that you're hearing about it now is probably a sign that you should.
Yeah.
For anyone that's read that, but have you read it?
No, I haven't.
No, okay.
So to everyone watching this,
if you're watching this, go read it, and then after you read it, you'll be like, oh, that's why he said it. But anyways, yeah. So the Celestine Prophecy was a really good book, and it talked a lot about like fruits and vegetables and growing your own food and and how that elevates your frequency and your vibration and things like that. And so I thought that was interesting. Yeah, like definitely I think our food is definitely like a spiritual practice in a lot of ways. Do I always treat it that way? No. Like I think for me too, I call myself like the healthy hypocrite. And what I mean by that is like I do some outlandish stuff. Okay. Like I will eat like a whole bag of gummy bears like at 12 o'clock at night. Like it's terrible, I will go out and get wasted, and drink like tequila all night, what I mean? Like, I'll smoke weed, but because I do all that, I'm like, I should probably make sure I'm doing good everywhere else, you know what I mean? Like, as much as possible, and I'm not like a big, like, go to the gym guy, but I'm like, I'll take the stairs instead of the escalator. I'll walk. I'll go earlier so I can walk instead of like taking a car or whatever,
But you know what? Even with that, I think that helps for a lot of people even listening right now, because a lot of times when we're taught about diets and eating better, it's almost as if you have that one day where you have like a whole pack of gummies to yourself, it's, well, I failed. What's the point of me doing this anymore?
Right.
But it gives a very realistic approach where you're going to have days where you're like, I don't feel like having a plant-based burger today. I want a thick burger.
And that's me most days. But I like, even if I have a burger though, like for me, my whole thing is like, I'm very frugal. Like I won't spend a lot of money on stuff.
Yeah.
The only thing I spend money on is like basically to have my own apartment and to have good quality food. So like, yeah, I'll eat meat. I'm going to have burgers tonight, but they're nice burgers from the butcher.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, and if I have like chicken, I'm having like Mennonite chicken breasts, you know what I mean? Like clean, like from the butcher, you know what I mean? Like good pricing, good quality, like I don't mind eating all that. Like a lot of the stuff that most people eat, it's not that they're eating bad stuff, it's just they're eating bad quality stuff, like, like again, there's nothing wrong with like a piece of beef, but if it's like some like deep fried, like fried in canola oil, like, and like covered in sugar and like all this different stuff, like, and sauces that are filled with sugar and cheese and like all this different stuff, then yeah, that's not going to be good. But if you have a nice piece of steak like by itself with some vegetables, like it's going to taste amazing and it's going to be filling and good quality for you.
Your body's literally going to feel different. And it's really about, like you said, it's as long as you're in your mind conscious of the decisions you're making, you're on a whole nother level of playing field than a lot of people are to begin with. There's something as you were saying there, but before I send myself crazy trying to remember what I was going to respond to just now, the last part. I do want to... Sorry, go ahead.
Well, what I was going to say, there, I do think about like the element of like spirituality, and I have a lot of friends that are very like adamant about prayer before their meal, or even just like putting their hands above their food and like connecting the food energy. I'm very much like that with my water for sure. But I think the food and the spiritual element is definitely, for me, I think the biggest thing has always been to like the journey, the karmic journey of that food, right? So like, I don't mind, and it has to be a journey that I would participate in, right? So like, it's like, okay, would I go kill a cow to eat some food? Like, yeah, would I raise it and then kill it? I think I'd have a difficult time doing that. But I think under the necessary circumstances, I would. And then I would appreciate it far greater, actually, if that was the case, right? So I think that there's an element, like, I think also too, people, especially like, I used to be like vegan and vegetarian. And I realized that I like, and this is just for me personally, I don't care what anyone else does or eats. Like, I think every lifestyle choice is personal to them. But I just got to the point where I was like, I think maybe I'm uncomfortable with death. I was like, I'm uncomfortable with the reality of death. I'm comfortable with accepting death as part of life. And
there's a whole nother stage of accepting death as
that. Yeah. And just for that concept alone is why I switched over to eating meat again. So
what I like is even how you speak about that journey, and how you spoke as well with the spiritual part of it is you have this way and this understanding where you're able to speak to so many walks of life, because it's never really you've never disrespected another walk, because you just have this understanding of how...
I have, but I think it's like, the thing is, you disrespect enough people over time and you learn to be a little bit more diplomatic. You know what I mean? Like even like when certain videos now, like where I say I'll say whatever I want, I do, but like my main goal is always like, if I have a message, is to get the message out. So if I'm going to say something that will make people think that it like just totally distract them from my main message, I don't want to do that. Right. So you have to kind of tailor it sometimes.
So yeah, and honestly, again, I feel like the amount of information that you brought onto this episode today, I am very grateful. I think everyone here is grateful. Please make sure you visit at Beau Pinto and you download his templates that he has. And
yeah, that's a cool new thing I got going to. So whoops, sorry. The business mindset essentials video that I have is basically, the reason why I put it out there was because I have met with so many people and talked to so many people, and so many people are struggling, like, because they're self-employed and they don't understand what that means, right? They go, I want to be my own boss. I want to be my own boss. I go, no, you don't. Because if you're your own boss, guess what? You're also your own employee. And if you've ever been, if you don't know what you're like as an employee, you'll find out when you're your own boss. And it's usually, you're not as good as you expected, right? You're like, damn, this person's not working hard enough, you know? Like, but anyways, this is a problem that a lot of people have. And I basically take the last decade of my business experience and bring it down into a 36-minute video and say, these are the things that if I could go back in time and say to my old self, like, dude, this, it would be those things. It's a 36-minute video. It's free. And the reason why it's free is because I'm exchanging it for people's email addresses and to be a part of my entrepreneurship community. So the entrepreneurship community is also free. They can just go and once they give me their email, I send them the details for it. It's hosted on School. I don't know if you ever use School app. It's a school community, so you can go on there, watch the video for free, and then there'll be some other videos there that people can like purchase if they wanted to. Okay. But that one's gonna be free. And just trying to get people like at least the basics to get started in their career, or at least to take the last 5 years and 10 years that they've been struggling and make it a little bit easier for them, you know? And yeah, so that's what that video is about.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for coming by. Gave so much great, a lot of great information for our listeners. And
great questions.
Guys, like I said, make sure you follow Beau Pinto, and thank you for listening to the Healing Manifest podcast.
Ayo.
Deuce. Okay.